Shell Point. I'm Laura Slack, sitting in for Terry Kolath for the Academy of Lifelong Learning. And I'm here today with Professor Kerr, and we're going to talk about the legendary places, bucket list places. And when I was reading through the list, I noticed that I'd only been to two, and they were both in Italy, the Colosseum and Venice. So Professor Kerr is going to tell us about others, and I'm sure you've been to many of them. So this is going to be a very interesting topic. So Professor Kerr, tell us about legendary places and bucket list places.
Well, it's great to be back at Shell Point. Thank you very much. Yes, it's hard to actually come up with a list that, one, covers the whole range of places and therefore matches people's expectations, because some of the places will be unknown to some people, some of them are very well known. So I've tried to mix it up, and I do it in a chronological fashion. So the oldest comes first. So in this case, the only surviving wonder of the world is the Great Pyramids in Giza. So we're going to start off with that and go all the way up to where do you cut off? And I decided to cut off around about 1600 or so, 1700. So modern things that you'd still like to go and see, like the Eiffel Tower, for instance, they won't be included. But up until about 16 or 1700, we're going to cover 3,500 years of history.
Wow. And how many of the places, the bucket list that you've created, have you been to?
I would say, if I haven't been to them all, it's pretty close.
Wow.
Somebody was joking, have you been to Atlantis? And I said, oh yeah, twice. But that was just a joke. But yeah, most of them I've been to more than once. Wow. And I spend 3 weeks every year going to some of these places at Christmas, New Year. So I went to Istanbul, and I went to Egypt, so I've seen quite a few of the sites there. And then next year I'm going to go around India, see Taj Mahal again, of course. And you mentioned the two you'd seen in Italy, of course. The whole issue of bucket list is almost contradictory in some respects, because people have this vision or dream to go to some of these places, and because it's becoming easier, less time-consuming to get there with flights direct, and the cost is not that bad that stops you from going, we've had an enormous influx of tourists into the list of places that we're going to visit. For instance, 3 years ago, you could go to the pyramids of Giza and walk around on your own. I spent an hour in the tomb of Tutankhamun on my own. Now, people's fear of the Middle East is declining, mostly not from Western folk or American people, it's from the Asians. Now it's 80% of the tourists I saw in Egypt and Istanbul were Asians. So wow. They've filled the gap, that whereas us timid Westerners are worried about security, they just go ahead. The other issue which is coming up, Laura, is many of these places like Machu Picchu, Venice, etc., they are deteriorating. I mean, they've shut the many of the Valley of the Queens, for instance, because of people breathing on them and touching the decoration. And I read 2 weeks ago that now they're contemplating trying to prevent the number of tourists getting into Venice, and so they come up with the idea of charging people a per-person charge for actually entering the city of Venice, because the congestion is just frightening. The last time I was there, there were 8 cruise boats all tied up in the harbour, each with between 2,000 and 4,000 people, all wanting to go to St. Mark's Square. So
at the same time.
So it's hard to even see Venetians these days. They keep out of the way during the summer season. So the whole issue of tourism and ecotourism is coming to the boil of, do we allow people in huge numbers, millions of people going to Petra, for instance, now, the roads to Petra are being worn away, which is affecting the drainage collection system when they have storms. So for everything that we want to go and see, there are some issues which maybe we shouldn't do. And now you have to have a ticket number to get into the Great Pyramid. To book that, you have to have a ticket number to get to Machu Picchu. And we've got this constant dichotomy of, yes, people need to see it, but maybe too many people.
Too many. Well, it sounds fascinating. And so if you are fascinated by these legendary places and your bucket list, I suppose, please come. And it is on Monday, January 21st, and then again, part 2, on Monday, January 28th, and they are both in the Grand Cypress Room at the Woodlands, and they start at 4:30 p.m., and there is a $10 charge. So if you want to attend, please call any concierge desk or stop by, and get your place at this very interesting topic. So thank you so much for coming, and it just sounds so interesting.
Thank you,
I hope
Laura.
I can pop in and
Please do.
see some of these legendary places. So we'll see you there.